Hi everyone, we're here today with Christine Coombe. She's the current president of International TESOL Associates. She's the conference chair of TESOL 2006 Tampa Convention, and she has played a very active role in establishing TESOL Arabia. And she was the president for a year and is conference chair for 6 years. She currently works at Dubai Men's College, and today she gave us a very interesting plenary session on foreign and second language teacher assessment literacy. It was a very interesting and thought-provoking session, and it has provoked a few thoughts in my mind that I'd like to ask Christine about now.
Okay.
Christine, you mentioned that involvement in assessment is every teacher's responsibility. Just imagining that we do have an institution that supports this idea, how do you envisage teachers being involved? What's the ideal model?
Well, I think one has to allow teachers to decide to what extent they want to become involved. But as I said in my plenary, I feel that minimal involvement is knowing about the different types of assessment that we use with our students, knowing the purpose behind them, the overall assessment philosophy, and then we work from there. And ideal involvement is all of those that I just mentioned, plus that teachers actually participate and, well, first learn about how to develop sound assessments.
A kind of idea that was running through my mind while you were talking was, should we ask all teachers to take on assessment roles, but kind of in a rotating way, like say they would take on some assessment role for a semester and then, move back to teaching? Or would it be better to have everybody contributing all the time, doing a little bit of assessment and doing teaching as well? Do you have any thoughts?
Well,
on
I
that?
think either of those would work. It would all depend on the whole context, and but there are certain teachers who are very against becoming involved in assessment, and I think with those certain teachers, you need to find a strength that where they can contribute, but that you don't really want to force anybody to do anything because the result is not going to be a good one.
Yeah.
But I think with those types of teachers, you have to find what their strengths are, what areas they can best be involved, and then finding their niche in assessment would be a primary concern.
Okay. You also mentioned the view that assessment occurs after learning has occurred. I was wondering what you think about, or how could we have learning occurring during assessment?
Well, if an institution uses multiple measures assessment or continuous assessment throughout the curriculum or the academic year, then you automatically have that, I feel. One of the advantages of alternative forms of assessment, like projects and portfolios and presentations, is that they're non-intrusive. It's not close the book, let's take out a piece of paper, let's have a test. The activities that result from these kinds of assessment are basically continuations of what we're doing in class. So oftentimes the students don't even know that this is going to be an assessment. It's kind of a logical continuation of what's happening in the class.
A thought that's just come to my mind is that when we try these kind of things, we often have issues with standardization. We want to use portfolios, we want to, assess students' oral assessment continuously, but then we have this issue with standardization. How can we balance it, do you think? Is there a way to do it, or is it a sort of a challenge that we need to keep thinking about?
Well, with things like a writing portfolio, you can view it as the same way that you do writing assessment. And none of these is an easy thing, because in order for alternative forms of assessment to be reliable and valid, they have to follow the same cornerstones as traditional assessment. So you have to take care to make sure that the grading is reliable, because if you don't take care to do this, then the results will be skewed. So it's a lot of work, but I think if teachers get used to using the rubric, the same rubric throughout the whole year, that's one way you can internally standardize, although not have moderation sessions per se like you would at the final.
Yeah. And talking about sort of traditional versus alternative types of assessment, I was thinking about proficiency exams. Are there any alternative types of proficiency? What do you see as a sort of ideal proficiency exam? How should it be done?
Well, my own college, we tie our results to the IELTS exam. And because we've done this for so many years, our curriculum has evolved into what is now being called in the testing field Proachievement. It's proficiency plus achievement. Our curriculum is linked to IELTS benchmarks, standardized IELTS benchmarks. So we've effectively used a proficiency test to actually measure achievement in our classes.
Oh, that sounds very interesting, actually. And another interesting thing that you mentioned, but this was not in the plenary, but in the current session, was for teachers experiencing burnout, you suggested think about taking on leadership roles. I thought, oh, sounds like more burnout. But you said that, no, it's something different. It's a different avenue, and so that's revitalizing in a way.
Right.
So what do you kind of recommend for people who might be thinking about taking on a leadership role but feel a little bit reticent, not sure whether they could do it? How could they get some mentoring or some guidance? What do you recommend for them?
Well, I think first of all, if you decide you want to take on a leadership role, you don't decide to be president of, of TESOL Arabia or whatever your affiliate is here. You kind of start small, and you join a committee, and then and I feel that this is best for not only you but the association. So you learn the association from the ground up, and then you become more confident, and you slowly, this is my development within TESOL Arabia, I slowly built up to becoming president. And for me, that was the ideal path. It was a lot of work, but in many cases, things that are a lot of work don't seem like they're a lot of work. If we're getting a benefit from it, it's not just work. It's, okay, I can see benefits for myself.
You're doing it, you're enjoying it, you're learning from it, so you can sort of, as you said, doesn't seem like hard work at all.
Exactly.
And another thing you mentioned in that concurrent session was Toastmasters. Now, I think I'd heard of Toastmasters ages ago, but really didn't know much about it. Could maybe other people are in the same position as me?
Well, I tell you, Toastmasters is, other than my involvement with TESOL and TESOL Arabia, Toastmasters has been the best thing I've ever done for myself, personally and professionally. And when I first, I think I mentioned in my talk, when I first walked into that Toastmaster meeting, I had this attitude, I have a doctorate, I've done 200 conference presentations, what could these people possibly teach me about public speaking? And from that first meeting, it was like something, that came over me. It's like, and now I have to admit, I'm ashamed to admit that for a 5 to 7 minute Toastmaster speech, I rehearse more for this than I do a plenary for a big conference, okay? Because it's an area where everything is being looked at, all the different elements of public speaking. They look at your eye contact, your movement, your use of the stage, your vocal variety, how you interact with whatever visuals you're using. If it's an inspirational speech, do you have the elements of inspiration or persuasion if it's persuasion? And it's one of those things where, because it's both public speaking and leadership, there are dual tracks that you can do, and you earn international qualifications. And I've very successfully led a Dubai Men's College Toastmaster Club, and we're now one of the top campus clubs. We've been featured in Toastmaster magazine a couple of times because of the things that we've accomplished. So it's the perfect activity, and one of the things that students really like about it is that teachers and students are the same level. So it's not just about like a classroom environment where the teacher is providing an evaluation of the students. Students are often called in Toastmasters to evaluate their teacher's speech. So it's like everybody's working on an even keel.
And like our learner plenary mentioned today, that those kind of activities where teachers and students are working together on something have, he or in his mind, have the most effect on. Of
course, I'm a firm believer of teachers and students working together and providing a good leadership. There's no better leadership model than someone, I could have very well said, like many teachers do, I'm going to go to my office and work, you go to Toastmasters. But I don't do that. I say, okay guys, let's go to Toastmasters together. And I feel leading by example is the most important way to...
Powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about sort of inspirational, what about our conference? What kind of things have you heard that are inspiring or interesting? Could you...
Well, first of all, I feel that the whole ambiance of the conference, you're kind of isolated, but it's really effective for development, because here we are, there's plenty of things to do, plenty of things to see, and you've really interspersed the hard work with kind of fun elements, which I feel is really important. I'm really impressed with the degree that the learners, your students have actually, having a student do a plenary, what what an achievement for us, you know, and they're really good too. So I think empowering students to do things like this is setting them up for a good career in whatever they decide to do. So I'm really impressed with the mix of good teacher and good student input. Especially, and of course your plenary speakers are from a wide variety of different contexts, and they, you know, they kind of surround your theme. I'm also a big believer of themes, and I've liked your theme since day one when I first received that email from Julia, and I thought, okay, how can I eclipse everybody's expectations? So
well, you have.
Oh, good. That's nice to hear. Good.
Thank
good.
you for being here with us today.